Hello students! Previously, we saw that carbon is very versatile in nature. It forms bonds not only with itself but also with other elements like hydrogen, sulfur, oxygen, nitrogen, etc. As we know, carbon can form numerous bonds with many elements. But the most preferred element is hydrogen. Yes, carbon and hydrogen easily form numerous bonds, forming a wide variety of carbon compounds. And what are they called? These carbon compounds are collectively called as hydrocarbons. Therefore, hydrocarbons, as the name implies, are the compounds that primarily contain carbon and hydrogen as the backbone. So, do these hydrocarbon compounds contain only hydrogen and carbon? Of course not. As I said, they primarily have these two. But in addition, they also have other elements too. But the backbone or chain always contains hydrogen and carbon only. Hydrocarbon compounds would appear like this. Can you see here? The first compound has a chain where all the bonds between carbon atoms are single covalent bonds. While look at this second and third chains. Are all carbon-carbon bonds single here? No, isn't it? Yes. See carefully. There is one double bond in the second compound and one triple covalent bond in the third compound between the two carbon atoms. The one with all single bond is called saturated compound and the one with double or triple bond is called unsaturated compound. Yes, the saturated and unsaturated hydrocarbon compounds, since all these are carbon compounds containing hydrogen. So what do you mean by the word saturated? Saturated simply means at its maximum capacity or completely satisfied. Let us understand it with an example. Suppose we have a salt and water in a beaker and we make a salt solution out of it. And what do? Yes, we added salt to the water in the container and mixed it. We see that it gets dissolved in the water. Now continue doing so. What happens next? We will see that after a while, the salt stops dissolving in the water. But why did that happen? This is because the water now does not have any space to accommodate more salt within it. That is, it has lost its ability to dissolve any more salt in itself. Or I can also say that it has reached its maximum capacity of dissolving salt, and therefore all the salt added any further will settle down in the beaker. What do we say then? Yes, we say that this solution has reached its maximum limit of dissolving salt and is now saturated. Thus, this kind of solution is said to be saturated solution. Something similar happens with the carbon compounds as well. We know that the valency of carbon atom is 4. So it has maximum capacity to form 4 single bonds, isn't it? So in carbon compounds where all the valencies of carbon are satisfied, carbon loses its ability to make any other new bond. Or in other words, it reaches to its maximum capacity of bonding. It's just a situation similar to the saturated salt solution. And thus, such carbon compounds are called saturated compounds. All of the carbon atoms in these compounds lack the ability to form new bonds. Thus, the saturation for carbon compounds demonstrates their ability to form bonds. Is this to say that no other element can form bond with these saturated compounds? They can indeed, but only after removing the hydrogen. Since carbon here has reached its maximum capacity of bonding, they cannot be added to the compound. Simply like in the case of salt solution, no more salt got dissolved, and we were not able to dissolve any more salt. And so, if we want to add some more salt now to this solution, we need to remove some salt first and then add new ones. Similarly, for saturated hydrocarbon compounds, if it has to make a new bond, it has to remove one hydrogen and replace itself there. And what about unsaturated hydrocarbons then? Simple. Since they have at least one double or triple bond between the carbon atoms. And if this bond is broken, then a new atom or element can be bonded here. Simply put, carbon here has the capacity to form new bonds, and thus the name unsaturated. Again, this is just like our salt solution where we could add more and more salt which gets dissolved in the solution to a point where no more can be dissolved. So we can say that carbon atoms in unsaturated hydrocarbons, that is compounds with one double or triple bond between the carbon atoms, can make new bonds by breaking either of their bonds, and thus the name unsaturated. Now, saturated hydrocarbons have all the single bonds, and all bonds are strong. This means that they cannot be easily broken. Also, these compounds do not have the ability to form other bonds, so they are very stable. But if hydrocarbon compounds have at least one double or triple bond between their carbon atoms in the chain, their stability and the bond strength reduces comparatively. And thus, these unsaturated hydrocarbons are relatively weak and unstable as compared to saturated hydrocarbons. Now, if I provide you 3 solutions in this manner, can you identify whether they are saturated or unsaturated? Pause the video, take a second, and think about it. In a given solution, we cannot see either single bond, double, or triple bond by our naked eyes, isn't it? Yes, it's true. So we need to perform an identification test in order to distinguish between saturated and unsaturated hydrocarbon compounds. And what are these tests? We will see in our next video.